Have you ever felt like you're caught in a whirlwind of anxiety? And no matter what you do, you just can't break free? Like your mind keeps spinning the same questions. What's going to happen next? Did I do something wrong? Where is this all heading? And the more you try to control it, the bigger the anxiety grows, taking over even the most ordinary moments. But here's the strange part. That anxiety, it's not really coming from outside. It's not just your job, not other people, not even the events happening around you. According to the Buddha, over 2,500 years ago, most of our anxiety actually comes from within, from our mind getting stuck in wanting, expecting, and fearing uncertainty. Every time we try to cling to comfort or push away discomfort, that's when anxiety quietly creeps in. And here's a gentle truth that might change your life. You don't need to fight anxiety. You can learn to come home to yourself, to observe it, understand it, and release its grip. You don't have to get rid of it overnight. Just remember, anxiety is not who you are. You're not the waves, you're the still water underneath. In today's video, we'll walk through the journey of transforming anxiety with Buddhist wisdom through simple yet profound practices like mindfulness, breathing, meditation, understanding impermanence, and self-compassion. These aren't far-off concepts or abstract ideas. They're grounded, human practices, things you can start doing right now, today. So let's take a deep breath together and begin. 1. Mindfulness in daily life. There are days when anxiety shows up uninvited. It might start with a hectic morning, an unanswered email, a strange look from a stranger, or just the sound of your phone ringing when your mind's not ready to face the world. And then, the mind starts running. It runs toward things that haven't happened, toward all the what-ifs and what now. And in all that running, one thing often gets forgotten: the present moment. Many people think mindfulness is something you only do on a meditation cushion with candles, a bell, a quiet room, and a Sunday afternoon free of distractions. But that's just the surface. Mindfulness, as taught by the Buddha, is not just something we practice when we sit, it's something we live. A woman in her 50s once shared that she'd been meditating, reading, listening to Dharma talks, but anxiety still wouldn't leave her alone. She asked, "I sit every day, so why does my heart still race when I'm out in public?" That question is real and very common, because many people separate mindfulness from life. They meditate in silence, but live the rest of the day as if they'd never sat at all. The Buddha once said, "The awakened one is mindful in walking, standing, sitting, and lying down." He didn't say mindfulness only happens on the cushion. He taught us to be present with every moment, whether we're cooking, sweeping, or having a conversation. Every ordinary action can be a meditation if we are truly there for it. Imagine this. One morning you're making a cup of coffee, but your mind is already racing. The meeting, the conversation, the problem you'll have to face. That coffee, no matter how good it smells, doesn't really exist for you. But if you pause for just a few seconds, listen to the water boil, feel the warmth of the cup in your hand, inhale the aroma right there, your mind returns. The worries may still be there, but you're no longer lost in them. Mindfulness doesn't fix problems, it changes how you're present with them. A Buddhist practitioner once shared his story. He worked in a high-pressure finance job, always surrounded by deadlines. He said, "I couldn't stop working, but I could breathe while I worked." Whenever stress showed up, he didn't avoid it or blame himself. He just stopped for a few breaths, a few seconds, enough to anchor the mind like a ship tethered in the middle of a storm. Another story came from a single mother. She said she started practicing mindfulness while washing dishes. "At first, I couldn't meditate because my baby cried all the time," she said. "So I breathed while scrubbing each spoon." Over time, not only were her dishes cleaner, her heart felt lighter too. Those quiet moments became small pockets of peace in her busy day. So you see, mindfulness doesn't ask you to stop living. It simply invites you to live more fully in each moment. Not clinging to the past, not rushing into the future, just fully present with what you're doing, with who you're with. And of course, it's not always easy. Sometimes, the mind still runs, it still reacts, it still judges, but that's okay. Mindfulness doesn't ask you to be perfect. It just asks you to notice each time your mind wanders and gently return. Like training a puppy, you don't yell when it runs off. You just call it back, kindly, over and over again. The Buddha once said, like a skilled potter shaping clay, the mindful one keeps returning to the present. And every time the mind returns, that's a moment out of anxiety's grip. It might be brief, but over time, these moments can create a whole field of calm inside. Mindfulness isn't about erasing every worry. It's the gentle light that keeps you from getting lost in the dark. Even one mindful minute in a long, exhausting day can be a safe resting place for the heart. So that means every step you take, every breath as you wash the dishes, every time you truly listen to another persona's a chance to practice. You don't have to wait for the perfect time. You don't need a retreat or a teacher. Right here, in your ordinary life, is where your mind can meet awareness. 2. The root of anxiety, craving, and attachment. Have you ever wondered why sometimes anxiety shows up even when nothing seems to be wrong? Life appears to be moving along normally, yet deep inside, there's this small, flame-quiet, but persistent. It doesn't explode, but it refuses to go out. Most people look for reasons on the outside: stress, at work, family issues, financial worries. But if we look more deeply, that anxiety often starts somewhere else, in a very personal place within us, where we try to hold on to the things that make us feel safe and fear losing what we already have. According to the Buddha, the root of anxiety is something called tanha, a Pali word, meaning craving, grasping, the urge to hold on, and the fear of letting go. Tanha isn't just about material desires. It's also about emotional attachments to security, to relationships, to our self-image, or even to a future we've imagined but can't control. There was once a man in his 60s who came to the monastery. He shared that he often woke up at 3 a.m., heart pounding, mind repeating the same question. What if the company lays people off tomorrow? What's going to happen to me? There wasn't even any warning of layoffs, but his mind was already living in that about to lose everything storyline because he had tied his sense of peace to his job. And that tight grip, that's attachment. It's like when someone says, "I'm afraid of losing the one I love." It sounds normal, right? But underneath that sentence is a fear of loss and a desire for things to stay exactly the same. But can anything really stay the same forever? A relationship? A house? A moment of happiness? Our youth? Our health? Everything is always changing like a river that never stops flowing. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha laid it out clearly. There is suffering, there's a cause of suffering, there's an end to suffering, and there's a path that leads to that end. And right in the second truth, he says, suffering comes from craving, especially the craving to keep what feels good and to push away what feels uncertain or uncomfortable. Anxiety isn't a moral failure. It doesn't mean you're weak. Anxiety is often a natural response when the mind is clinging to something it can't fully control. And truthfully, most of the things we cling to in life, we can't really control. A mother worries because her child doesn't call as often anymore. A husband fears his wife's love is fading. An elderly person fears there will be no one to care for the house when they're gone. All these worries grow from one place: attachment to what once brought comfort and the wish for it to never change. But life in the Buddhist teaching is anakame permanent. Everything changes, moment by moment. Even emotions, even thoughts, even beliefs, even who we are today is already different from who we were a year ago. It's easy to say, but harder to live by, because the mind loves certainty. The mind doesn't like losing control, but the truth is none of us truly have full control over life. What we can learn is how to move with change instead of trying to grip what can't be held. A Zen master in Japan was once asked by his student, "How do you live without worrying about the future?" The teacher smiled and said, "I'm not even sure I'll see the sunrise tomorrow, so when I drink tea, I drink it completely." That answer wasn't careless, it was awareness of impermanence. It was freedom from needing to hold what's out of reach. We can't always stop anxiety in its tracks, but we can listen to it as a message and gently ask, what am I clinging to? What am I afraid to lose? What am I trying to hold that was never really mine to begin with? And when we begin to see that clearly, the heart softens. Not because everything is fine now, but because the inner knots of attachment begin to loosen. In a retreat in California, a young woman opened up. Her husband was terminally ill, and she was living every day in a state of tension, fear, and emotional exhaustion. During a meditation on impermanence, she suddenly cried not because her fear disappeared, but because for the first time, she let go of the idea that her husband had to survive in order for her to be happy. From that day on, she began to love without gripping. She cared for him not out of fear of losing, but out of full presence for every moment they still had together. Letting go doesn't mean not caring, and it doesn't mean giving up. It means being fully alive with what's here, without clinging, without trying to control what cannot be controlled. Because as long as the mind is tightly holding on, anxiety will always find a reason to appear. But once the mind starts to let go, little by little, it's like a breeze flowing through a field that's been tense for too long. Not everything becomes perfect, but something inside begins to rest. And that, in itself, is already a beautiful kind of peace. 3. Self-compassion, the beginning of healing. There's something quite strange that most people don't even notice. When a loved one is feeling down, we comfort them. When a friend fails, we cheer them up. But when we ourselves are not okay, when we feel weak, anxious, or exhausted, our first reaction is often to blame ourselves. I'm being too soft. Why am I overthinking again? I shouldn't be feeling like this. So many of us grew up in environments where emotions were brushed aside. We learned to stay silent, to toughen up, to hide our fears just to seem strong. And over time, we built an inner guard, a voice inside that's quick to criticize, quick to judge, and quick to shut down our own feelings. This is how anxiety becomes a cycle. We worry, and then we scold ourselves for worrying. We feel tired, and then feel ashamed for being tired. But in the spirit of Buddhism, compassion isn't just something we give to others. True compassion karuna begins with ourselves. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha once said, "A person who truly loves themselves is the one most capable of loving the world." Why? Because a heart that knows how to lift itself up when it's down is the kind of heart that can hold others without collapsing. A soul that's learned to be gentle with itself doesn't need to judge anyone else. There was once a senior Dharma teacher who shared, "After more than 40 years of teaching, what breaks my heart the most isn't my students' pain. It's how cruel they are to themselves in their own minds." Many Buddhists I've met have quietly admitted, "I don't feel good enough, not mindful enough, not peaceful enough, not strong enough." But often, it's the image of who they think they should be that keeps them from accepting who they are right now. A woman once shared during a retreat that after her husband's sudden death, She completely broke down. She couldn't sleep. She was anxious all the time and cried alone almost every night. But what hurt her the most wasn't the grief, it was the guilt. "I should be stronger than this," she said. "I'm a mother. I shouldn't be falling apart." So she buried herself in daily routines, working, parenting, smiling while carrying a wound no one could see. Until one quiet afternoon in the meditation hall, she was invited to place her hand over her heart and whisper gently to herself, "It's okay to feel this way." In that moment, tears came not from pain, but from relief. For the first time, someone had given her permission to be sad, and that someone was herself. Self-compassion isn't self-indulgence. It's not weakness. It's simply the willingness to meet your emotions as they are without denial, without judgment. When anxiety shows up, instead of pushing it away, we can take a soft breath and say, "Anxiety is here right now, and that's okay." That's a very simple form of compassion, but it's also the foundation for deep, lasting healing. In the Metta-Sutta, Buddha's teaching on loving kindness, he doesn't start with the outside world. He gently invites us to begin with ourselves. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. Only when we can say those words from the heart can we genuinely offer love to others. Even in modern psychology, research confirms this truth. Self-compassion is one of the strongest predictors of emotional resilience. People who can speak to themselves kindly recover from pain more quickly, not because they're tougher, but because they don't tear themselves down when they're already low. And the good news? That compassion is already within us. It's just been buried under years of being strong, being logical, being guarded. All it takes is a quiet return and the courage to whisper a few honest words. "It's okay. I'm tired, and that's completely human. I deserve to be treated gently too." So the next time anxiety rises, instead of rushing to fix it, sit down, place your hand on your heart, breathe, and say, "I'm feeling worried right now, and I don't need to fight that feeling." Just that one sentence can be the first step on a long journey of healing. 4. Mindful breathing. A safe haven within. In today's world, people can go anywhere with a car, a flight, or just one click. But there's one place that's always near, and most of us forget it's even there. It's a safe haven right within our own breath. When anxiety hits, it's like a storm. It doesn't knock. The heart races, the chest tightens, the mind spins. Anyone who's ever gone through a full-blown anxiety episode knows it's not just overthinking. It's a physical experience, a whole-body reaction. And in that moment, one of the things that can actually save us is something so simple, we often overlook it: the breath. In Buddhism, the breath isn't just a sign of life. It's a bridge between body and mind. When both feel shaken, the breath becomes the thread that brings us back to balance. A meditation student once shared a story. During a tense meeting at work, her boss suddenly criticized her harshly. Her body froze. Her mouth went dry, her palms were sweating, her mind went blank. But then she remembered something simple she had learned. Return to the breath. Right there at the meeting table, without anyone noticing, she took one deep inhale and exhaled slowly. Then again and again. While others kept talking, she simply breathed gently, aware of each breath coming in and going out, not to push the feelings away, but to give herself just a little space between her and the storm. And when it was finally her turn to speak, her voice was calm. Her hands were steady. She didn't just get through the meeting. She discovered the quiet power of returning to the breath. There's a reason the Buddha taught mindful breathing right at the beginning of meditation practice. In the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha guided us to simply notice, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, nothing added, nothing taken away. But in that awareness, we step into a space untouched by past or future. The breath doesn't tell stories. It doesn't ask, what if this happens? It doesn't replay, why did I say that? It simply says, I'm here, right now. People often come to meditation thinking it'll stop the mind, but that's not what meditation does. It doesn't stop the river of thoughts. It just teaches us to sit beside it and not jump in. And the breath steady groundedus, the rock we can sit on so we don't get swept away. There was once a middle-aged man who came for guidance. He said, I can't control my mind. I've read books, listened to talks, but when I start worrying about my mother's health, everything inside me spins out. The advice he was given was simple. Don't try to stop the anxiety. Just place your hand on your belly and breathe. One breath, then another. You don't need to do anything else. The breath is your shelter. Every time you return to it, you're stepping out of the storm so it doesn't sweep you away. He did just that. Not for long, just a few minutes each time. And a few weeks later, he came back not to say he was cured, but to say something softer. Now, when my mind feels chaotic, I know where to go. That's what mindful breathing offers. Not a magic trick to make anxiety disappear, but a quiet path, step by step, out of the chaos of the mind. When you breathe in and know you're breathing in, and breathe out and know you're breathing out, you create a little space between yourself and your thoughts. And in that space, there's clarity, there's freedom, there's choice, there's peace. Breath is like Thathambal, quiet, always there. And when anxiety shows up, you don't need to fix it right away. Just pause, close your eyes, and return to the breath. It's like coming home after a long, stormy day. Not to escape the world, but to rest, so you can step back out stronger. The breath is a loyal companion. It doesn't abandon you when you're scared. It doesn't judge when you're overwhelmed. It asks nothing except that you notice it. Here, now. 5. Mindfulness of impermanence. The secret to letting go. There's a phrase most people have heard, but very few truly live by it. This too shall pass. It sounds simple, right? But sometimes, just truly understanding that one sentence can calm an entire storm of anxiety inside. Because anxiety has this sneaky quality. It makes us believe that the discomfort we're feeling will last forever. In the middle of fear, the mind screams, "This is never going to end. I'll always feel this way. There's no way out." And suddenly, anxiety isn't just an emotion anymore. It becomes a prison. But according to the Buddha, everything, both the beautiful and the painful, is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. Emotions are like the weather constantly shifting. No storm lasts forever. No sunset stands still. And in the same way, no sadness, no worry, no tension holds its shape forever in the mind. The Buddha called it anakame-permanence, one of the 3 fundamental marks of existence, alongside suffering and non-self. And understanding impermanence isn't about becoming gloomy. It's about waking up from the illusion that things can stay the way we want them to. There was a man who once shared that years ago, he lost his job unexpectedly during a company layoff. In that moment, it felt like the world collapsed. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just lay there thinking, maybe I'll never recover from this. But one morning, walking through a park, he noticed a maple tree. The leaves were changing, color falling one by one, quietly. No drama, no fight. And in that moment, something shifted If a leaf can fall so gently, maybe I can learn to accept the changes in my life too. From that small realization, he began to recover, not by forcing himself to be strong, but by understanding deeply that everything changes. And that wisdom didn't come from a book, it came from observation. In meditation, we often use the image of clouds floating across the sky to describe thoughts and emotions. Anxiety is not you. It's a cloud passing through the sky of your mind. It might block the sun for a while, minutes, hours, but it can't stay there forever. The sky isn't the cloud. You are not the anxiety. You are the sky vast, steady, able to hold it all. One woman shared that whenever anxiety surrounds her, she doesn't try to push it away anymore. She simply sits, breathes, and repeats in her heart, "This is a passing state. It's not me. It will change." And it does. Eventually, the feeling lifts like mist vanishing in the morning sun. The key isn't to destroy emotion. It's to see it clearly for what it is. Something that arises and fades away. We tend to cling to what feels good and fight what feels bad. But the more we cling, the more we fear losing. The more we push away, the more we get entangled. Only when we see through it all, recognizing that everything is temporary, can we begin to relate to both pain and joy as passing visitors, just guests coming and going. There's a famous story in Buddhist tradition. A king once asked for a phrase to be engraved on his ring, something that would keep him grounded, whether in triumph or despair. Many wise suggestions came, but none felt right. Finally, a quiet sage said, "Just carve this. This too shall pass." And so he did. When suffering came, he looked at his ring and whispered, "This too shall pass." And when honored with glory, he looked again and remembered, "This joy won't last forever either." That understanding didn't shield him from change, but it gave him peace within change. And when that wisdom sinks deep into the heart, letting go no longer feels like effort. It becomes a natural response, because no one can hold on to what can't be held. The practice of observing impermanence can start with the smallest things. A breath in, then out. A bird call here, then gone. A feeling rising, passing. Every moment becomes a quiet reminder. Nothing is fixed. And because of that, nothing needs to be clung to. This doesn't make us detached from life. It helps us cherish it. When we know everything is fleeting, we live more deeply with what is here. We love without holding tight. We work without being trapped by outcomes. And we meet our anxiety not as a monster, but as a cloud we know will float by in time. 6. Non-judgmental awareness. Learning to befriend your mind. You know those nights, after a long day, when everything outside is finally quiet, but your mind won't stop talking, and it's not whispering gently either. It's like an anxious playlist on repeat. Will tomorrow be okay? Was I good enough today? Why do I still feel unsettled? And the first instinct is often to push it all away, to silence the noise, to make the worry disappear. But here's the thing. The more we try to fight our thoughts, the louder they tend to get. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering doesn't lie in our emotions themselves, but in how we react to them. Emotions come and go. They're just natural phenomena. But when we resist them, judge them, or cling to them, that's when they become chains. In meditation, there's a simple yet powerful approach. Observe without judgment. Don't follow the thought, but also don't fight it. Just sit quietly, like a friend, listening. One woman once shared how she used to spiral into self-critical thoughts. Anytime she made a mistake, her mind would whisper, "You're so useless." And for hours afterward, she'd stay stuck in guilt. Then, one morning in meditation, she heard this simple instruction. When a thought arises, just note, a thought is here. Don't label it as good or bad. Don't identify with it. So the next time her inner critic said, "I'm terrible," instead of believing it, she softly said to herself, "A judging thought is here." And something shifted. That small shift in awareness, it stopped the wave from dragging her under. In Buddhism, being able to notice a thought without becoming it is the beginning of inner freedom. You're no longer the actor inside the drama. You're the audience watching the play of your mind. One monk once said, "The mind is like a movie screen. Thoughts are just scenes that come and go. You don't have to jump into every one and start acting. Observing without judgment doesn't mean being passive or numb. It's a very awake, very compassionate presence. It's like watching a child cry. You don't scold them or rush to hush them. You simply sit beside them and say, 'Oh, you're feeling sad. That's okay. You're allowed to feel that.' The same with anxious thoughts. You don't need to scream back in your head, 'Go away.' Instead, you breathe and say gently, 'Hey there, anxiety. I see you. Stay as long as you need. I'm just going to sit here and not react.' The less you react, the lighter the mind becomes. The less you identify, the clearer everything feels." During a retreat in Northern California, a middle-aged man shared that he always felt like his mind was controlling him like a puppet. Every time a negative thought came up, he'd find himself reacting, snapping, withdrawing, getting angry. But after several days of practicing non-judgmental awareness, he said, "I stopped trying to beat my mind. I just started sitting down and listening to it. And then I realized thoughts are just thoughts. I don't have to believe everything I think." That line really hits home. I don't have to believe everything I think. How many times in our lives have we suffered, acted out, or gotten hurt just because we believed our thoughts were truth? But when we see them as clouds drifting through the sky of the mind, everything feels so much lighter. The Buddha once said that the mind is like the ocean. The surface may be stormy, but the depths are always still. When you learn to watch the waves without jumping into them, you start to touch that deep, steady silence beneath. And the best part? You don't have to be a monk to do this. Anyone, whether you're working, cooking, or sitting on a bus, can start with one small moment. When a thought arises, I'll just note it. I won't react. I won't judge. I won't run away. It may sound simple, but this kind of awareness is deeply transformative. It's like shifting from being soaked in a storm to sitting on the porch, watching the rain fall. The rain still comes, but you're no longer drenched. And from that place, you start learning how to befriend your own mind, not as an enemy to fix or control, but as a companion to sit with, like a good friend who's always there, just listening. 7. Learning to live with uncertainty. There's one thing we all crave, whether we say it out loud or not: certainty. We want to know what's going to happen. We want things to be clear, organized, under control. We want plans to go as expected. We want our loved ones to stay the same, our jobs to be secure, our health to remain strong, and our future to sit neatly in the palm of our hand. But life doesn't work that way. Everything we label as certain is really just a temporary sense of safety. And when life shifts, as it always does, we panic. Not necessarily because something bad has happened, but because our minds can't bear the weight of not knowing. A woman once came to a monastery, overwhelmed with anxiety. She said, "I can't sleep. I don't know what's going to happen. My whole life feels like it's floating." She had just lost her job. Her mother was ill. Her relationship was shaky. She said, If someone could just tell me that everything will be okay, I'd finally calm down. Sound familiar? That desire for some kind of guarantee, some promise that the unknown will turn out all right. But in the Buddha's teachings, the first truth we're invited to face is this: life is impermanent. No one knows what tomorrow will bring. And in fact, uncertainty might just be the most certain thing there is. The point isn't to control the future. It's to learn how to stay steady in the present, even when things are unclear. There's an old story about a monk who lived deep in the forest. Every day, he tended to vegetables, chopped firewood, and meditated under the trees. One day, someone asked him, "Aren't you afraid? Out here alone, what if there's a storm? Or wild animals? Or you fall ill?" He simply smiled and said, "You're right, I don't know. But that's why every morning I wake up feels like a miracle. Whether it rains or shines, I still make my tea. I still sit in silence, and I live this day fully." He wasn't being naive. He had simply let go of the belief that things must go a certain way in order to be at peace. And in letting go of that demand, he found his freedom. Many people come to this lesson the hard way. One businessman once shared that he lost everything during a financial crash. But what hurt the most wasn't the money. He said, "It was the loss of control. I thought I'd done everything right, but it still slipped away. It took me a year to finally understand I was never in control to begin with. And once I saw that, I started to breathe easier." That's the truth. Uncertainty isn't your fault. It's just the nature of life. What we can learn is how to live with it, not as an enemy, but like a familiar companion. In meditation, beginners often say, "My mind's not calm. Every time I sit, 100 thoughts appear." But over time, they learn, let it come. Don't force order. Don't expect an empty mind. Just be present. Breathe. Let the moment be what it is without needing to fix it. And that's how we approach uncertainty too. We don't need to erase it. We just stay with it, take a slow breathe, and acknowledge, not knowing is here. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the foundations of mindfulness, the Buddha teaches us to observe the body, feelings, mind, and mental objects exactly as they are. Not in some ideal state, not in perfect clarity, but in the raw, changing moments of life. Someone once asked Ajahn Chah, a great Thai forest monk, "Are you afraid of death?" He smiled and said, "I've died many times through worry, through loss, through the things I tried to cling to. So no, I'm not afraid anymore." It sounds deep, but the truth is simple. Once you become familiar with not knowing, it doesn't scare you anymore. There's an important lesson in spiritual life. Not every question needs an answer. Some things we can't know in advance. And instead of letting that ambiguity unnerve us, we can learn to stand still inside it, like a mountain inside the mist. Learning to live with uncertainty means letting go of the need to control. It means trusting in your inner strength more than your outer plans. And when someone asks, "How do I know I'll be okay?" maybe the answer is, you don't, but you can be fully present today. And that's the foundation of every kind of peace. Because when we've learned to stay with the breath, to observe without judgment, to see the impermanence of emotions, and to let go of our grip on control, what remains is a return to the self, to the stillness that was always inside us, to the ability to live in peace, even when life is uncertain. The Buddha didn't teach us to run away from pain. He taught us to live with it wisely, to walk through this world with an open heart, not dragged by anxiety, but guided by mindfulness and compassion. No one can promise that life will always be easy, but each of us can choose a path, and that path always begins from within. If something in this video speaks to your heart, I invite you to subscribe to Buddhism Seeds so you won't miss the next soul-nourishing teaching. Please share this with someone who needs it, and leave a comment below what part resonated with you most today. Who knows? Your words might be the light someone else needs in the middle of their own storm of uncertainty. May you always find stillness in mindfulness. And I'll see you in the next video.